Next is a Grammy Award winner and a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. His new CD is entitled Revival. Please welcome back John Fogerty.
In 1968, a song called Proud Mary rolled onto American radio stations, unleashing a sound that would define an era. The voice behind it belonged to John Fogerty, a kid from Berkeley who would become both a rock legend and a cautionary tale. He crafted some of the most iconic songs in American history, only to lose the right to perform them. His story is one of soaring triumph and crushing defeat, of artistic brilliance and bitter legal battles, of a man who found his voice, lost it, and fought for decades to reclaim it. This is the story of John Fogerty. Early life born in Berkeley, California in 1945. John Fogerty's earliest memories were filled with the sounds of KWBR radio, where the raw energy of blues and country music first captured his young imagination. Growing up in a working-class family, with his mother Lucille and brothers Tom and Bob, John found escape in the twang of Hank Williams and the powerful vocal of Little Richard. By age 12, John was already showing signs of the musician he would become. After receiving his first guitar, he spent countless hours practicing in his bedroom, meticulously learning every note of his favorite songs. His obsession with perfection, a trait that would later define his career, was already evident as he worked to master each chord progression. In junior high school, John formed his first band, the Blue Velvets, with Doug Clifford and Stu Cook. His older brother Tom soon joined, completing the lineup that would eventually transform into Creedence Clearwater Revival. They played local parties and school dances, with John's distinctive voice already turning heads. The Vietnam War interrupted their momentum when John was drafted in 1966. He served in the Army Reserve, an experience that would later influence his songwriting with its themes of class struggle and social consciousness. During his weekend drills at Fort Bragg, John would write songs in his head, storing away the ideas that would later explode into CCR's protest anthems. Back home, the band, then known as the Gollywogs, struggled through countless small gigs and failed singles. But John's determination never wavered. He studied the music industry, analysed hit songs, and honed his songwriting craft, all while working as a delivery driver to make ends meet. These lean years shaped his work ethic and deepened his connection to the working-class themes that would later define his music. The CCR era, the transformation from the Gollywogs to Creedence Clearwater Revival in 1967, marked the beginning of one of rock's most remarkable success stories. John Fogerty, now the band's undisputed leader, had developed a signature sound that somehow captured the essence of the American South despite the band's California roots. This swamp rock sound, with its distinctive guitar tone and Fogerty's powerful vocals, would soon dominate the airwaves. 1969 became the year that cemented CCR's place in music history. In an unprecedented burst of creativity, the band released 3 landmark albums: Bayou Country, Green River, and Willie and the Poor Boys. Each album spawned multiple hit singles, with tracks like Proud Mary, Bad Moon Rising, and Fortunate Son becoming instant classics. The band's productivity was staggering. Fogerty was writing, arranging, and producing at a pace that few artists could match. Behind this success, however, tensions were brewing. John's perfectionism and increasing creative control created friction with his bandmates. In the studio, he often recorded all the guitar parts himself, much to his brother Tom's frustration. The other members felt sidelined as John insisted on specific arrangements and performances, accepting nothing less than perfection. The band's appearance at Woodstock in 1969 highlighted these growing tensions. While other artists played prime evening slots, CCR performed at midnight to a largely sleeping crowd. John, disappointed by the experience, refused to allow their performance to be included in the original documentary or soundtrack album. Despite the internal conflicts, the hits continued. Who'll Stop the Rain, Up Around the Bend, and Have You Ever Seen the Rain showcased Fogerty's songwriting at its peak. Each song seemed to capture something essential about America, its hopes, fears, and contradictions. The band's simple, direct approach stood in stark contrast to the psychedelic excesses of the era. The pressure of maintaining such success took its toll. Tom Fogerty left the band in 1971, unable to reconcile with his brother's dominance. The remaining trio soldiered on, but the magic was fading. John's insistence on creative control reached a breaking point when he demanded that bassist Stu Cook and drummer Doug Clifford share equal songwriting duties for the Mardi Gras album. The result was disastrous, and the band dissolved in 1972, ending one of rock's most productive and influential runs. During their brief but incredible peak, CCR had released 9 top 10 singles and 5 top 10 albums. They'd created a uniquely American sound that blended blues, country, rock and R&B into something both familiar and entirely new. John Fogerty had emerged as one of rock's greatest songwriters, crafting 3-minute masterpieces that spoke to both personal emotions and political realities. But the end of CCR was just the beginning of his struggles. The creative peak. At the height of CCR's success, John Fogerty was living every musician's dream, but beneath the surface, a perfect storm was brewing. The band's grueling recording and touring schedule, combined with mounting business pressures, began taking their toll. Fogerty's relationship with Fantasy Records owner Saul Zaentz grew increasingly strained as he discovered the unfavorable terms of their contract. The band's Woodstock performance should have been a crowning achievement, but instead became a source of frustration. Playing in the early morning hours to an exhausted crowd, Fogerty felt the band had been robbed of their moment. This disappointment led to his refusal to license the performance for the film and album, a decision that would impact the band's historical legacy. The departure of his brother Tom in 1971 marked a devastating personal and professional turning point. Their relationship, already strained by creative differences, would never fully heal. Tom's exit left a void that extended beyond the music, creating a family rift that would haunt John for decades to come. The final CCR album, Mardi Gras, became a painful experiment. In what many saw as an act of frustration or sabotage, Fogerty insisted that Cook and Clifford contribute equal songwriting and lead vocals. The result was critically panned, with Rolling Stone calling it the worst album I have ever heard from a major rock band. The experience effectively ended CCR, with the band dissolving in 1972. The aftermath was immediate and severe. Fantasy Records still owned the rights to his song, and the pressure to continue producing hits weighed heavily. Fogerty found himself in the surreal position of owing the label more money than he'd earned, despite selling millions of records. This financial and creative stranglehold led to a period of intense personal struggle, marking the end of his most prolific creative period and the beginning of a long, dark chapter in his career. In a cruel twist of fate, the very songs that had made him famous would become a source of pain, as he found himself unable to perform them without enriching those he felt had wronged him. The creative force behind some of America's most beloved songs was effectively silenced, setting the stage for the legal battles that would define the next phase of his life. The legal battles. The 1970s and 1980s became a battlefield where John Fogerty fought not just for his music, but for his very identity. The core of the conflict centered on the contract he'd signed with Fantasy Records, which had given the label ownership of his entire catalogue. This agreement, signed when he was just a young musician eager for a break, would haunt him for decades. In an unprecedented turn of events, Fogerty was sued by Fantasy Records for plagiarizing himself. The label claimed his 1985 solo hit, The Old Man Down the Road, was too similar to Run Through the Jungle, a CCR song he'd written but no longer owned. The absurdity of being accused of copying his own distinctive style led to one of music history's most bizarre court cases, where Fogerty had to bring his guitar into the courtroom to demonstrate how he composed songs. The legal victories came at a steep personal cost. Fogerty refused to perform CCR songs for many years, unwilling to generate royalties for Fantasy Records. This self-imposed exile from his own creations meant that some of rock's greatest songs went unplayed by their creator. The situation became so bitter that when CCR was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1993, Fogerty refused to perform with his former bandmate. The legal wrangling continued into the 2000s, with various suits and countersuits over royalties, publishing rights, and use of the song. The battles consumed enormous amounts of time, money, and creative energy, effectively robbing American music of one of its most distinctive voices during what should have been some of his most productive years. Personal journey and comeback. By the mid-1980s, John Fogerty began emerging from his self-imposed exile. Marriage to Julie Lebiedzinski in 1991 marked a turning point, bringing stability and renewed purpose to his life. With her encouragement, he slowly began reclaiming his musical legacy, returning to the songs that had defined his career. His 1997 album, Blue Moon Swamp, represented more than just a comeback. It was a resurrection. The album earned him his first Grammy Award for Best Rock Album, validating his return to music on his own terms. The songs showed that his distinctive voice and songwriting abilities remained undiminished by the years of silence. The healing process extended to his relationship with his CCR songs. Gradually, Fogerty began performing his classics again, realizing that these songs belonged not just to record labels, but to the American musical canon. His concerts became celebrations, with audiences finally hearing Fortunate Son, Bad Moon Rising, and Proud Mary, performed by the voice that made them famous. Personal growth came with professional revival. Fogerty embraced his role as a father and mentor, playing music with his son and sharing the wisdom gained from his struggles. He began speaking openly about his past, turning his experiences into cautionary tales for young musicians while demonstrating the power of resilience and artistic integrity. The darkness of the previous decades gave way to a period of recognition and respect. While the legal battles weren't entirely over, Fogerty had found peace with his past and excitement for his future. Legacy and impact. John Fogerty's influence on American music extends far beyond his chart success. His songwriting, which blended blues, country, and rock into a distinctively American sound, created a template that artists continue to follow. Bruce Springsteen, Bob Seger, and countless others have acknowledged their debt to his work. CCR's socially conscious lyrics, particularly in songs like Fortunate Son, helped establish rock music as a vehicle for protest and commentary. The directness and clarity of Fogerty's writing showed that complex messages could be delivered in simple, powerful terms. His legal battles changed the music industry, serving as a warning to young artists about the importance of creative control and contract rights. The precedent set by his self-plagiarism case continues to influence music law. Today, Fogerty's songs remain ubiquitous in American culture, appearing in films, commercials, and public events. Their enduring popularity testifies to his ability to capture something essential about the American experience. If you've enjoyed diving into the remarkable story of John Fogerty and American rock history, don't miss out on more music legend stories. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications to join us every week as we explore the lives, struggles, and triumphs of music's greatest icons.